So let your questions keep coming. My problem is with research methodology. My problem with research methodology is my lack of confidence. Most times it is difficult to find relevant information to the research problem, searching for the right literature, and then I get lost as I read. Good. How do I link my literature review to my problem statement? Fantastic. Research gap. These are very powerful questions, and which is why we are here. Let's keep the questions coming, because we are going to look into we are going to go through these questions and make sure that we address them. So if you don't post yours, we are not going to have your questions. Please, so I'm waiting for your questions, please. And I'm making it a priority. If you put a question there, we will answer that question in our bid to explain the key concepts with you. So what I'm doing right now is I'm copying the questions actually and putting the questions on my slide. So if you have a question, you should be able to ask. Okay, good evening, doctor. It is challenging finding articles. Fantastic. That's a very good one. Under the literature review, I don't, good. Another one, mine is choosing a topic. It means that you were not at the sorting through the overwhelming amount of information. Okay. Okay. So good. Now let's start the whole thing. Also, how to write a research problem and methodology. I just saw this one. So we'll be able to address the research problem, but I think the methodology, the research problem, but I'll try and see if we can bring some issues to bear. So that is good. So let's start. And as much as possible, I'll beg you guys to, as much as we can, to keep our mic on mute. You are not here alone. There are other students who have also joined you. Prof, we have even PhD students who have joined also to share, also to listen to this to refresh their minds. So you are not here alone. And let me thank my my team leader during the PhD, group leader, Professor Dumbia, and also Professor Dumbia has been my friend, and also we did the PhD together. And by the grace of God, he's an HOD where he is. I'm also an HOD here. But we have a very good relation. So he reached out to me to so that we can share some thoughts on this, which I'm excited about. So I want us to look at how to write a comprehensive literature and methodology. And of course, that's what Prof should ask me to do. And first of all, I want us to begin looking at this course outline. I'll be picking some, we cannot treat all of this today. So I'll be picking some of these things out and then the rest we'll see how we deal with it. I'll talk to Prof. I have some literature. If you guys can find a way to have access to it, that will be fine. But we'll be looking at the introduction to literature review, the whole process, and also look at research methodology, and then see how the methodology informs, is able to shape your research question, or your research question is able to shape that. The kind of link between the various sections of what the proposal or the thesis we write, or the dissertation, so to speak. So these are the questions that you are asking, and I decided to post them here. So I was what I was doing was that I was copying. So my problem with research methodology is my lack of confidence. Of course, if you lack confidence, then it means that you have an issue believing in what you are doing. And what we are doing in research is based on fact, okay? And research is a study that is done, on a certain problem, and that problem could be a gap, and that gap could be, a limitation somewhere. And once we want to study that, we use some systematic means to achieve that. And this systematic means, includes some sort of guided steps that we go through to be able to achieve that. So basically, that's the whole concept of research. So once you lack that confidence, then it means that you may not have read to understand what you're doing, or there's an issue that is we don't know. And most time it is difficult to find question two, to find relevant information related to the research problem. We're going to deal with that. So searching for the right literature, and then I get lost and I read. It happens to all of us. Even at the PhD level, it happens to us. So it's part of the process. In fact, the whole thing about research, you see, the word is research. It means that a search has been done, and then you are repeating that search. So the trust of the work that you are, the cracks of the work that you are doing is actually in the search of literature. That's actually what you are doing, because it's research. So you cannot come and sit behind your machine and try to type or try to write. It won't happen. You get it? Because about 80% of the work should be in finding information. And in finding the information or researching that information, you are not supposed to go online and expect to get everything. The search of information itself is a skill that you build in the research process. It is not for nothing they are saying that search for literature. It's a skill that you build when you are searching. And you need that skill when you get out of school and you become a manager somewhere, how you are able to put data together within this, the smallest possible time, and able to analyze that data and make some informed decision for management to take those decisions and implement them. So it's a skill. So don't be frustrated when you are searching. It is part of the exercise. I just want you guys to understand. It's part of the exercise to search for data. And when you are searching, you are not guaranteed to see the data. In fact, the more you don't see the data, the more knowledge you grasp. Because then you'll be reading other things that are not probably related to what you are doing, but it is telling you what is there and what is not there. And I think we need to get this thing clear, okay? So, and how do I link my literature review to my problem statement and the research gap? That's also very good. We'll look at that. It is challenging finding articles for some topics and rephrasing when writing, yeah? We'll look at that. And then understand the literature review. I don't understand what is an overview of the research and how can I find research related topics. I think this was treated. And then mine is choosing a topic. Okay, I believe that Prof will give you guys access to that. And sorting through the overwhelming amount of information and determine what is relevant can be time consuming. Yes, literature review takes most of the time for your research. And that is how it has to be. Okay, so for the course that you have done exams and all that, if that doesn't give you the degree, what gives you the degree is the research. And the research component is almost more than 60% of what you do at school. And once you pay attention to it, it is going to help you and give you that skill that you need for the industry. Whatever we are doing on under in this world is part of research. It is research that has advanced technology to this stage. It was out of research that the airplane was designed. Out of research that medicine is now using 3D equipment for kidney. I hear that now you can have a copy of your genes, your youthful genes, you can have a copy, which means that they can replace, with your age, they can replace your gene with your younger gene. And that means that they've reversed your age. Do you get it? And all whatever sickness you're having, that is going to go. And these all came as a result of people spending time and researching. So let's disabuse our minds that we think research is a coursework and that when we go and sit down and want to write, we should be able to write something. No, we need to search. And the more we search, the more we realize that even we don't do nothing. And the more we realize that there's more stuff there that we need to uncover. So that is very important. Also, how to write a research problem and methodology. We can address the methodology. So let's look at introduction to literature review. So what is literature review? Now, literature review is basically you gathering papers, articles that are related. It could be from books or it could be conference papers from reliable sources. Reliable sources means that you don't just go online and then copy anything. That journal should be indexed. Index means that it should be part of the the peer-reviewed journals that has been grouped. In other words, a body which has been able to group all refereed journals or journals that are indexed. That it means that those journals were reviewed by, as it were, reviewers. There were editors who went through, made corrections before they published. So journals have their own ranking. Some comes with ratings, some comes with stars, some are in Scopus index, they are Scopus index, some are Web of Science. But when a journal is indexed, what it means is that it's peer review. And it goes through a rigorous process. So if you are looking for information, then you need to look for reliable information in journals that are indexed, okay? And that is also very important. There are some people who, journals you go, you pay money and they publish. In fact, you send to them, they publish. That's not what we are looking at. And in terms of integrity, you want to look for journals that are in a high index or within the index, range. So when we say we want to review literature, we are looking at papers that are related to the topic and that we want to critique that. We want to find some limitations, what we now call gaps within the literature. Know what they have addressed. Know what they were not able to address, and then pick it up from there. It is so because, you say, in research, all that we do is that we look for limitations or gap, and then we address them. So let me give you a typical example. You guys are in the space of supply chain. So somebody conducted a research into the port supply chain, for instance, and then was able to find that for Ghana, within a year, there are about 50 vessels that calls at the port. And then he was done with the research. So that was his findings. But he was not able to tell us, for instance, the vessels that calls at the port, or at the port we say vessel calls, or the vessel that comes to the port to discharge cargo, the type of vessels that came. The research did not tell us, but what it did tell us that vessels called, 52 vessels. What are these vessels? Which type of cargo were they carrying? These are things that the research did not say. We did not see in the literature. But of course, in some manuscripts, they would have indicated the limitation of the research. And the limitation of the research is actually the gap or the problem that we might also want to study. So when we talk about literature review, it is about the first thing you do before even identifying your topic. The moment you come out with your topic, it means that you may have read, if you are at the degree level, not less than 15 papers related to your area. And it is easy to identify a gap because in most of these papers, they indicate that what the research was able to do and what it was not able to do. And I'll give you a typical example before we proceed. So I'm going to pull up an article, and I'm going to show to you that that article indicated that it had what? Gaps. So I'm going to pull that for you to see. So just a minute. Good. And I want to do that so that you know, for instance, that what we are doing is more practical than theoretical. So I just want you guys to appreciate this. Okay. So I'm going to show you this. So this is a paper. Please, can you see the screen? Just reply on the chat. Don't speak, just reply. If you can see, say yes. Can you see the screen? Good. Okay. So let's look at this topic. The topic is exploring factors affecting the adoption of MOOC in Generation Z using a standard Utah 2 model. That's the topic. I mean, this might not relate to your area. But look at, if you go through this, assuming you want to pick this paper for your literature review. Now, let me give you the keys. Your first point of call, first of all, assuming this paper has passed the test to be, to be grouped under the reviewed, high index papers, for instance, which I'm going to show you what to do. What you need to do is to go to the end of the paper, right? Every peer-reviewed paper or refereed paper would have followed a certain methodology. So there is some of the things that you will see that the limitation of the study is something that is requested, that every paper indicates its limitation to advance the course of what research. Now, look at this. So if I pick this paper, the first thing I'll do, I'll read the abstract first, and I'm going to show you when you read the abstract how to take data out of it. I'll come to the limitation. Now, this is what they are saying. They say future studies must be carried out to address the limitation and better generalization of these findings. First, a study carried out cross-sectional research on Generation Z or a Z. a longitudinal research can be suggested or can suggest a change in the intention or, and behavior of Gen Z over a period of time for better generalizability for the model. Did you hear that? Now watch what I would have done. It said a longitudinal study over a period. So this is a gap. Do you know what I can simply do? I will go and I'm going to show you that. I want to do that on the... So what I will do is that I'll go and copy this, the topic. He said the same topic, but they should do what? A longitudinal study, a study over a period of time. So assuming that was what I was going to do, I'll simply do this. If you can see the screen, this is the topic. So I'll use the same topic and I'll say column, a longitudinal study. Don't I have a topic? That was a gap. And I can show you if I'm writing a problem, what I would do. Do you get it? This is a problem. I would have said that in the studies of, this is the guy. There's a meet a tell and 2022. So I would have said that if I was writing in the study of meet a tell 2022, the artist suggested that a longitudinal study should be conducted. I'm going back to the place. It said longitudinal study for studies, for future studies must be carried out to address the limitation and better generalization of the results. That's what he said. And first of it was longitudinal study. So when I've said that, in the study of Mate et al. 2022, the artist suggested that a longitudinal study be conducted to picking the same literature to be carried out. This one. It says should be conducted to address the limitation and better generalization of results. This is the whole problem statement that I'm going to expand. And I'm not going to hassle. Do you know why? This study that this guy did, every reference he used, I'm going to use it. In fact, I'm done. That paper alone can write my research work. It is current 2022. So all the papers he used, I'm not going to struggle. And some of you, a lady said that, someone said that I have a problem looking for paper. If I have a paper that is current, that is in the area of my study, and they mention a gap, and I went to the limitation and I saw it, I'm done. Watch, all these references here, I'm going to make use of them. All these references. Why? Because this guy did the study to a certain stage. I am just taking off from where he left off. So it's a continuation. So of course, I'm going to cite him and cite all the other people he also cited. And also check within the space if there are new studies that has been done, some 2 or 3, add it. I mean, my review is done. My review is done. And we're going to go through and understand how to pick some of these papers. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm already recording. Do you get what I'm saying? So that is the point. So just within some few minutes, we have seen a gap. Then let's go back to the other gap. He mentioned one. I just want you to see how you can get another one. He says that first, the study be carried out cross-sectional, blah, 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 and then a longitudinal study can suggest the change. And I can copy this again. I can copy the same thing and come here, assuming I'm writing. I can say that the authors further suggested that I'm adding a longitudinal study or research. Let me do a study. Can change the intention of the behavior of gene what? Z over a period of time and better generalization of the model. My research problem is done. It's done. Because I picked it from there. And out of this, I can generate my objectives, my research questions, and I'm good to go. So I've identified a problem. So you see why the literature review is very important. You see why you cannot, for those of you who start by anything that comes to mind is a topic. I mean, then you go and submit. You don't know what has been done in that area. You are not sure. But here it is quite clear. Let's go ahead. Also, it says, second, the model explains 69% of the factors that affect the intention of MOOC adoption, leaving 31%, listen, unexplained, unanswered. So the UTAT 2 model should be extended with additional constructs, okay, additional construct to enhance this explanatory power. So I'm going to find out the model that they used, all right? That's what they are saying. Oh. If I see here, they use P, EE, SE, FC, HM, PV, and the HC, and then there's another one, LC, and then the TI. Now, these 3 were not supported. In fact, SI was not what? Supported in this model. So he is saying that we should add additional what? Variables to it. That is a suggestion. There are so many things we can do about that. Right? I know you don't know about this model, but there are so many things. Yes, we can add a variable. I've seen that SI was not supported. I can as well use the same topic. Now listen, the same topic. The same topic. Let me go to the next. The same topic, then I say, exploring factors affecting the adoption of MOOC in something, something, column. Now I'm saying that this was a social influence. So I'll say that mediating for social influence. That is the FFI. You see, I have not changed the topic. I have not changed the topic. This is another topic because I realized that social influence here was not supported. I want to move it and bring it, use it as a mediating factor to see what will happen. Or I can decide to say that investigating the impact of social influence. Okay? So exploring, but what we are doing, we want to investigate the influence of the impact of social influence. It was not impactful here. We want to do that. So this is a kind of a way of introducing this literature review for you to see how rigorous this is. And it's very important that we understand. Second, please, can you kindly label the various areas as you write? Let me see your screen for each understanding. Okay, I'll do that. Yes, that's a good one. So I'll do this one. And this one was 2. So let's say we have gap 1. We have gap 1 and gap 2. Thanks for that. Okay. So that's just about it. Now let's go to our main thing. So this was just to highlight, and to address one of the questions that we were talking about. All right. It's challenging finding articles. You don't need 1,000 articles. Find a good one, leverage on it if it is current. And I might say that there are some of the journals that you may have to pay. And if the school has the school access to it, you might have the opportunity to access through the school. Other than that, if the school is not subscribed to it, you might have to pay. Sometimes you get one journal and then your work is done. Okay, so that is it. So I have described what literature review is, and it said that we review to identify what the gaps. And the gaps could be theoretical gaps, it could be empirical gap. Theoretical means that there's gap in theory. A theory has been applied in a certain way. Probably it has not been extended. In the case of what we saw, the UTAT 2 has been used in a certain way, but there are some of the factors that are not predicted. Future study will investigate to see why they are doing that. So let's understand research not as us doing something new. Wherever other studies have reached, if that paper is credible, don't worry yourself. You can even replicate that same topic. So the topic finding is the easiest thing to do, unless you are dreaming of something that you have not read. Because if you read 15 papers, you should be able to settle. You will be able to identify all the gaps, and we're going to go through that. The second thing to do is to identify the research gap, and then we do guiding research questions and objectives, supporting methodological choices, and establishing credibility. Let's go to identifying research gaps. Okay. So if we want to identify gaps in the review, first of all, for the review, there are certain things we need to do. And I want you to appreciate that. And I want to do that by demonstrating it, but not just showing you the slide. So I want to identify the gaps in literature. So this is what I'm going to do. Just watch. Assuming I want to do something about supply chain integration. I think I've moved this thing here. Supply chain integration on performance. Let's pick that topic because we are within that. So the effect of supply chain integration on performance, maybe operational performance or something, assuming this. Now, if I want to review this, if I want to do, first of all, the review, I need to gather the information first. So it is the gathering I'm taking you through before we do the actual review. Get my point? So what I'll do and what I tell students to do, if you're an undergrad, be working between 15 to 20 papers that you are going to read. Please, you are not reading everything at this stage, at gathering, and this one will help you identify a topic. This one will help you to know which research questions to use. This one will help you to know even which methodology what apply. So if the guy who says that he has no confidence in the methodology is the fact that you have not done a comprehensive literature review. In fact, reading 15 papers, 15 abstracts, Charlie should put you on top. Should be able to tell you, and we are talking about abstracts or papers that is within the last 5 years. Take note of that. The last 5 years. Let me write that on the screen. For social sciences, that is acceptable. But in fact, for physical sciences, they are doing 2 years or even a year. Because within that period, there are a lot of things that will happen. In IT, they are doing like 2 years because a lot of things are happening very fast. In our social sciences within our area, we are reviewing papers for the last 5 years. Okay, so you can write it down. So if you are doing papers for the last 5 years, the current year is not inclusive, which is 2023. So if we want to go back, then we'll start from where? Somebody should type it for me. Where are we going to start from? Someone should type it. Which year? Yeah, up to 2022. Okay, so 2017. So we are doing 2017 to what? 2022. These are the papers we are looking for. So the year factor is addressed. All right. So I'm going to do the search to know what to do. But watch, for this topic, I'm looking at supply chain integration, one, and then what? Performance, two. So what I will do first is this. I'm going to have a table. A table with 4 columns. Or probably 5. So for this table, here, title of the article. And then I go to the author, stroke what? The year of the paper. Here I tap method. And then findings. And the last one that I'm going to deal with is limitation. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I'm going to do. So to use that paper, for example, the one we looked at, for example, okay, I would go and look for the abstract. I'm not reading. This one is the preliminary search. I remember we are talking about what? Supply chain and what? Integration and performance. Then we have the year here. You get it? So what I can do, Google Scholar is a very good resource. I don't know how many know how to use Google Scholar. Google Scholar. How many know how to use Google Scholar? If you know, just say yes, yes, yes. Let me know. Yeah, good. So if I'm going to search, probably not many papers would have done supply chain integration and performance, but I can try, because remember, the process of searching is part of the work. Remember, there might be some study that have done supply chain integration on maybe marketing, supply chain integration on customer relationship, supply chain integration on a different, maybe operational productivity or something, not on performance. But this is what we are doing. So supply chain integration is it's a key thing that I need to search for. So I can as well move this, watch supply chain integration on performance, and go to Google Scholar. This is Google Scholar. When you go to Google, just type Scholar. So, sorry, this did not copy. So go there. I'm copying what we have here. And remember, we said in the last, 5 years. So that's what I have. But what I can do, if I want to be very specific, I can say 2017, because that's where I'm starting from. I have how many? 15 papers to search for. I can decide to do the lower years. Maybe I find about 2 papers in 2017. So that's my target, right? Now, I have a paper here, 2017. Have you seen it? It says the impact of supply chain integration on performance. Evidence from what? UK. That is fine. So I can what? Go for this paper and download. Some of these papers, when you want to download, it might say that you have to pay something. That you have to verify. Now, Science Direct is using what? Robot to do verification, just to see that if you are the one. So now this is the paper. I have it now. Now, how many here know how to use Mendeley? How many here know how to use Mendeley? If you know how to use it, say yes. If you don't know how to use it, no, okay. Somebody say yes. So if you know how to use Mendeley, if you don't know how to use, don't worry. From here, go to YouTube, type how to use Mendeley. It is easy, and learn how to use it. So I have this. I use Mendeley to organize my papers. So I'm going to download this. This is 2017. Okay. So I'm going to create something new in Mendeley. Do I have supply chain integration here? Okay. So I'm going to name it supply chain integration. Okay. And I'm going to now upload the paper that I downloaded, because Mendeley will help me organize my papers very well. So let me see. I just did the download. Okay, let me use this one. So I have it. I have it in the download now. I save it on downloads because I'll clear it. So I should say it here. This is the paper. Now, when I move it to Mendeley, the good thing about Mendeley is that it organizes the papers for you. So that is it. That is the usefulness of Mendeley. So that when I'm writing and I want to cite, I can easily do the citation without any hassle. Any type of citation I want, I should be able to get it using what? Mendeley. Okay? Get citation from what? Mendeley. Get citation. When you go there, it will tell you whether you are using APA and all that. You know, no stress. And I have connected, when you finish installing, you have to connect it to Microsoft Word. So I give you a typical example. So for this paper, that's what we have. And it is 2017. So we've gotten one of the papers. So once I have the paper, all that I do is that I go to the abstract. Now watch this. You know, we have our table here, and then we have the abstract also here. It said, supply chain integration has emerged as a major field over the years and all that. However, there has been major debate regarding the true, but first of all, let me do this. We copy the topic because it is a criteria here. So we put the topic what? Here. The second thing is that we get what? The artists. They are here, right? We can copy all of them. Or if you like, there's a way, there's something you can do. But let me bring the artists here. Of course, we know it's 2022. 2022. If you know how to do proper citation, you can just say this one is a tile so that you don't bring all of them here. So first of all, the two columns have been what? Filled. The first one has to do with what? The title. The second one, we are doing collection of the data. We have picked supply chain integration and performance. We have seen an exact paper. The difference is that it's in the UK. They did it in the UK. And we are doing for the past 5 years. Sorry. So this one is 2017. It's not 2022. So 2017. That's what we have here. Now, which method did they use? So now I'm going to now read the abstract. So it talks about the fact that supply chain has emerged as a major field of interest over the years that involve strategic alignment of functions and process within the organization. However, there has been major debate regarding the true design of the integration that will lead to performance of supply chains. This study, now listen, this study, so what did they do? This study develops a conceptual framework from the literature and defined construct of what? Integration. So the methodology they use was that they developed what? A conceptual framework from what? Literature. So what they did was actually what? Literature what? Review. Some call it systematic literature review. That was the method, right? And anytime you read the abstract, you see some of these things. If it is a reference journal, or an index journal, they will follow that pattern. Then it said to see how this will lead to improved supply chain performance, such as productivity, inventory turns, order fulfillment rate, total logistics. So they did that to see whether they will achieve this. Now, what is a limiting factor in this paper is that it did not produce the actual findings. You can go to the findings and then see for yourself. At least you have what? The methodology. So this is the findings and what? The discussion, right? So you can pick a summary here. In fact, the guy should have done this, okay? But they didn't do it. And of course, sometimes those are the challenges. Some papers might not qualify, but it will pick them. They should have stated that in the. So you pick the summary of these findings here, Assuming, let me see, the supply chain performance construct, which consists of operational performance, productivity, inventory turns, order fulfillment, and total logistics cost, was converted to a single scale and Bloomberg Alpha. I need just the summary of it. So they should have done that. But the fact of the matter is that we can pick even what they said here. The reason why I don't want us to pick is that it didn't conclude. It said to see how this will lead to what? Improved supply chain. All right. So assuming this is the finding, but this is not it, because the conceptual framework was developed to lead to this. So improve this and all that. That's what we have here. So let me copy this. Okay. So we are going back here, assuming this is the findings. Now we need the limitation. And as you know, we need to go to another thing you can do in Mendeley is to just type limitation. And it has to take you what's there. Okay. If indeed, if the paper had limitation. But you realize that we are not seeing any limitation in this paper. So even though this paper was published in Science Direct, I mean, it didn't follow the required pattern. So it is indexed, but it might not be a good paper because it's giving you a hell of time. You should be able, the one we looked at, we're able to identify what the limitation was. So we look for another one, but we have done how to get limitation. We know we've seen a paper that gave us the limitation. So you have to do this for all the 15 papers. For all the 15 papers. So you look at which of the limitation you'll be interested in addressing, then you pick it up from there. So let me give you a typical example. As an example here, this one. Please, if you can see the screen, just say yes. This one. If you can see, just say yes. I'm switching between screens, so I just want to make sure. Good. Right. So for this, look at what we are having. Impact of IT on integration, supply chain collaboration. These are all areas of supply chain integration in other areas. We didn't specify in our destin, we said supply chain integration. We didn't state which sector, whether health sector, but I'm using this as an example. So for these papers, for instance, you see impact of supply chain IT on its integration was by this person. We are looking at 2017 downwards. But the method was what? Survey. This was what we found. But these are the gaps and limitations. Limited exploration of what specific IT capabilities and their impact on what integration. So if I am looking for a topic, I can say exploring IT capabilities and their impact on integration is a topic. Why? Because this guy, it was a gap in this guy's work. And my problem statement is simple. I reference this guy as he proposing this as what? Future study. But of course, we said that that paper we are relying on should be a very solid paper. Because with just that one paper, you should be able to do your work without any hassle. Then you find other papers that are related, and then you take it out from there. So if you get a current paper that is current and is indexed, all their references are your references. If you get 2 or 3 of it, your work should be done, because whatever they investigated, you take it up from where they left off. And then the gaps that they have, that is what you are going to collect data on and then report on those data that you collected. All right. So that's just about it. So I think we've had, and then there is also this thing that you need to know. I have a lot of literature on some of these things. Now, here it is identifying research gap and formulating research questions. So we need to talk a little bit about formulating what research questions. But having now identified the gaps, okay, then let me now let you know how the literature review, when you are writing itself, how it looks like. And I told you that I'm not interested in theory only, but there should be some practical aspects. So I'm going to pick these guys. This guy's work, the guy who did something on supply chain integration. Let me go to Google that I can find another paper assessment of supply chain integration on performance. Okay, this one is a literature review. It's a metadata. When you see metadata, it's a form of a systematic literature review. So there's another paper here, 2017. It says supply chain integration on performance relationship, a moderating effect of what review. Also a form, so, but let me pick this. So I'm going to pick two papers and kind of do a review on that. This is the writing, okay? So when you are doing a review, what should you consider? I know that is a $1 million question. So I'm adding this thing to it. This paper to it. So we have two papers here. Okay, that is good. So we have two papers, this one and that one. This is what I'm going to do. Now, you see that this paper is quite different. So let me look through the, I want one person to, Caleb Adams. I'm trying to unmute you. Tell me, can you read what you have? Are you there, Caleb? I'm requesting that you unmute.
Yes, I am here.
Are you there?
Okay.
Are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. So Caleb, what do you see on the screen now?
Okay, so an abstract.
Okay, so the abstract has what? Purpose, right?
Purpose, yes,
Design methodology findings.
And research limitations or implications.
Okay.
Originality or value.
Okay, so please watch what I'm going to do. The other paper, we didn't have that. Maybe I need to find out, let's see if okay, let's use this to do. So this is the writing of what? The literature itself. So as my guy said, this one, I'm going to caption it as writing the review. So when you're writing a literature review, you need to introduce the topic itself, okay? Assuming this is the introduction, you need to have what we call the overview of the topic. And this is based on what you have read over the period. That is one, okay? Then you need to state the purpose of the study. Some people talk about it as what? Problem, right? Then you need to state the method that was used. And method could be quantitative, or qualitative, or mixed, right? Then you need to state the findings. And then limitations, right? Now the limitation, there are two ways to that. You can leave the limitations, and then when you are done with the review, you put all together and then you summarize. And you say, this is what you're going to do in an attempt to what? Address the issues, right? So there are two approaches to it. So assuming I have this, I want to write the literature. I'm going back. This is the writer, right? I'm going to take this guy, and it is 2017. So this is what I'm going to say, that the concept of supply chain, this is based on what I have read. Integration has gained prominence over the past decades. This should be founded on what I have read. Apart from that, you know what you can also do? You can also go to, I'm saying that this thing, you don't need to stress yourself. You can also go to the papers and look at their introduction. Do you get what I'm saying? Look at the first, it said that the increasing global competition and shortening product life are the two main factors that encourage organizations to change their factors. So if I don't want any wahala, you see, he's telling you people, those who reference, you know what I'll do? I can take the same thing. Huh? What something? I'm going to pick what this guy said. But you know what I'll do? I'm adding this current guy who said this in his work as part of the contributors of this message, because he had also cited it. So the guy, they are called what? There's the name. So let me pick the surname. Itel 2017. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So I've finished with my introduction. The increasing global, if I want, I change the increasing to the rising global competence and the shortening. You understand? Or the reducing product life cycles are the two main factors. So this is an overview. And I will say that a number of studies have been conducted on supply chain integration. I'm using SI on the effect of supply chain integration on performance. For instance, now I've started the review. For instance, what is the guy name? Now watch. This guy studied. I'm going back to his paper. Studied have you seen it? This is the topic. This is what he studied. He studied what? Supply chain integration and operational performance, and modeling what? Review. Methodology. This is it. So the authors conducted a systematic literature review. That's what they've said here. Okay? Now, the next thing is findings. Watch what I'm doing based on what I've written here. The findings. The authors, or I'll say findings show, then I go and copy. What did they say? The findings show that the direct relationship between, I copy this, everything here. I can paraphrase, right? And Turnitin won't get you because you have cited the person. Show the direct whatever. Do you understand? Now the next thing is what? The limitation. Now I've shown you the limitation of, and I've said that other papers will say that other school of thought will say that for the limitation, we will wait when we go to another section where we say, gaps in literature, then we treat that one for all the papers. Other than that, we'll be repeating this one here. So what I've done here is the literature review. The limitations here, there's a question we ask, and so what? And so what? Under the limitation. That's where we need to do some sort of synthesis. So assuming this guy's findings show that, supply chain integration has impact on performance. If I have another paper where I've reached, because I'm going to treat the limitation together, I'll say that in another related paper or study by, then I go for the paper. So let's assume that we are doing another paper by, there's the paper, right? This guy. So Vickers. Another paper by Vickers, 2017. If this guy says something that agrees with what this guy is saying, I would have said that the authors agreed, or affirmed the findings from this guy. What's the name? Added that, then the new thing that this guy added, it is added to it. So what you are doing is that what we are doing here, we call it synthesizes. We are synthesizing, right? We are doing comparison. We are grouping all the papers that said, okay, supply chain integration has a positive effect on this, and another one is saying that it doesn't. So if there's another paper which says it doesn't, I will say that a contrasting view that is another view that doesn't agree, view from maybe Cynthia Etel, maybe another paper, 2020, indicated that supply chain integration has a negative effect on performance. Now see what I'm going to do. These controversies, assuming I'm finished, these controversies in the findings has given rise or necessitated the need to investigate the effect from I was typing too far. The effect of supply chain integration on performance from the Ghanaian context to be able to resolve these controversies and add or contribute additional knowledge from the Ghanaian context. Maybe additional knowledge on supply chain integration from what? The Ghanaian context. So what we have done, we have done, also, how do you include the references from the paper you have done? So I'll show you. So what we have done is I've just done a review. And I didn't want to just go through this. I have just done a review. I don't know, is this helpful? Let me hear from you. Is this helpful? And Professor Dumbi, I think the time is far spent. But I believe that this approach should help them to be able to now connect to what they are doing rather than going through the slides. So I've actually done the review with you. Now the question that you were saying, and let me say this. You see that I was typing S-tempo and order. It didn't come by chance. I'm not that intelligent. It's just that I've read a number of papers and I see that this is how the review is done, okay? As I read the papers, I see the structure of the sentence. So as I see them, I copy them, I learn them. So when I'm writing, I apply them. Don't worry yourself. Take 2, 3 papers, and I can give you a typical example. For this paper, see how they did the review. Let's go to the literature review. If they didn't have, so they started from supply chain. What is? So I want a typical paper that did some sort of empirical review. Okay, so let me, there's a recent paper. Let me show you this. And I want you to see so that it's easy for you to relate. Okay, so there's a paper here. I want you to just appreciate how. Professor Dumia, when we finish this, I think that we may have to look at the methodology another time.
Yes.
Because
I think so, because it looks like most of the time has been devoted to the literature review, which is very good.
Okay, so let me give you a typical example. So this literature review here, let's see. So this is the empirical review. Now in literature review, let me also state this. It's very important because I was devoted to just the writing. I want to draw your attention to the fact that literature review I'm seeing that someone is trying to write on the screen. Let me disable the annotation. Okay. So there are 3 types of review. The first one is theoretical review. That is if you use some theory, and most of the time it is for quantitative studies. Okay, they use theories, all right, test theories and then quantitative studies. Then we have the empirical review. In fact, the empirical review is actually the review we are talking about, that current publications of papers in that area of study. That's empirical reviews. And then we have conceptual review. Sometimes you pick a theory and then you pull concepts out of those theories and you want to make it your own. We call that conceptualization. In other words, you are thinking that theory, the relationship that has been established, you want to, juggle the thing up and then establish a new relationship based on some studies, based on some ideologies, and then make some sense out of it. Okay, so that is conceptual review. So normally the conceptual review, relies on the theoretical review. And this is basically on quantitative study. If it is a qualitative study, you rather see, you don't see the presence of theories. Sometimes not at all. Because qualitative study actually explores, discovers new ideas, and they build theories, they build concepts, and then the quantitative guys extend that to, the larger environment. And then there's the mixed study where you pick some part qualitative and some part quantitative also too. So the literature review has this 3, and then this one is the recent papers for the past 5 years that we talked about, this one. But the conceptual review will operationalize the concept. In other words, the other meaning for that is it will give those concepts that it has introduced a working definition. That in the context of this study, this is called this is that. Now, most of the time when we have done the review, so what I showed you was a review. When we have done the review, what we want to do is that we want to put all the gaps together and then make a statement. And I just want you to understand, I want to show you something in that regard. So I've shown you the types of review, the theoretical review, the empirical, but I want to show you something before finally I take you through the review. Maybe it will be of much help. Even though what I'm going to show you appears to be a work, Jethro. a work that is probably PhD work, but you don't need to worry because the concept is the same. I just want you to see how this thing was reviewed. Let me go to the message. Doc, I will want to find out what can be done in the case where your supervisor has assigned a topic to you, of which is difficult finding. No, I mean, if your supervisor has assigned a topic to you and you're not getting data, I mean, your HOD is here. I mean, talk to the supervisor first. If you are not getting data, why waste your time on that? It's not worth it to waste your time on that. Okay. So when you have reviewed, please, can you see the screen? When you have reviewed your literature, can you see the screen? Just say yes. Good. Now I'm going to read this to your hearing. So this is what other people call it critique of the literature. So take notes. Let me go back here. I just want this thing to be systematic. When you have finished reviewing this, when you have done this review, you go to the last section of the literature review, then you either indicate it that part as implication of the empirical review on the study, or critique of the review, or gaps in the review. Let me write that so that you get it. And that is actually what is going to give your work some sort of shape. So those things I talked about, one is implication of the reviewed, of the empirical review on the study. That is one. Another way is, say, gaps in literature. And this could be even the theoretical gap. Or critique of the literature. Right? So these three, any of them can work if you come to that point. So in the chapter 2, every school has its format. You have the introduction, theoretical review, you have conceptual review, and then empirical review, right? So this is how it goes. Let me start from here. Introduction. Introduction. So assuming this is literature review, which is your chapter 2, right? Normally the chapter 2 will come first and your literature review will come under. Let me take these numbers off. So under it, this is what you have. The introduction, theoretical review. You have conceptual review, if any. And then you have the last one, which is the empirical review. All right. So what you find here is what we should, but of course, follow the school guideline. They may have their own way of treating this. I'm giving you a general guideline that you can use. So that's what you have. This critique of literature and all that, they are the same as this one. These ones are the same, okay? So what I want to show to you now, which I'll be bringing my in case you have time to mentor students to become good researchers, I want to be considered one. I hear you. If only you are ready. So now let's go to this place and watch what this guy did. Very interesting. Now, the topic under consideration, let's go there and see. The topic is examining the state of women issues in leadership in educational sector. That's the topic. Just want to give you some form of some info so that you appreciate this. So that's the topic, and they have done the review, and he is going to now establish the gap and look at the writing. Very, very important. He said, empirical evidence based on extensive reviews made so far points to the fact that women in senior leadership are faced with disparities, issues in most disciplines in education and in the real world. This is an intro. After you have done the empirical review, he said this is what he saw, right? And now, for instance, the standard of measurement used for evaluation is most often than not biased, largely because of the expectancy theory. It's linking this the theoretical review, which sees general features such as education, race, gender, and occupation used extensively to group individuals and members. So this theory, to a large extent, promotes the perception. So he has reviewed the theory and the empirical review, the evidential, papers, and is now explaining why certain things are so. And in review, this is what you do to now keep the person who is reading your paper, keep him very busy. Try to raise some sort of curiosity, you understand, in that person. Make the person that curious to want to know more, and make the reading also more coherent and more understandable, because the theory has a purpose. Now, I said this theory to a large extent promote perception that women should be assigned some specific roles in society, roles that relates to affection of care of people. Now, this was identified in the reviewed works of, that he mentioned the person. Have you seen? Have you seen? So he's now grouping everything as one of the factors that militate against women progression to senior leadership. Now, furthermore, please, when writing literature review, you're connective. Furthermore, also, in contrast, you understand, in affirmation, the paucity of literature, these are connective. When you read the articles, they are there, you learn them, and then you start to write that way. In literature review, we all borrow. The English is not ours. It is not ours. We are not. So I also learned. So over the period, when you read more, when you begin to read the articles, then you would then, become used to this. And even when you are writing your normal writing, you see that, you have improved on it. So research does so many things to us. Let me tell you, for those of you who outsource your work, and then you are not part of it, you are not ingrained in it, you are doing yourself a disservice. There are people who don't have time, but they have coaches, and they go in it and then they study. Everybody needs help. You need help for analysis, but when they finish, when they help you, you have to sit down and then learn. It's very important. Between all the reviews, are you allowed to use all, or there is compulsory ones that, no, you can use, those are that you may have talked about them. This is a summary of them, okay? So if they are relevant, you have to mention them. Now, it says that social identity theory, which also hinges on a firm, I want to skip all this. He talked about a lot of them. Where I have the interest is this part. Look at the use of the choice of words. It was also conspicuously noticed. If I were you, I take this thing, I put it there. It's a technical writing technique. It was also conspicuously noticed that most studies cited and reviewed use qualitative method, either through focus group, in-depth interview. You see that he is grouping them, observations and experiment. Very few use the quantitative method to establish some relationship and causal effect, right? This study intends to add to the numerous works of literature available from the librarian tertiary education perspective, context gap, and also improve the existing methodological gap used by these papers by introducing a mixed method approach. Why? He said other people did what? Qualitative. There are other people who did quantitative. But he is what? Improving the methodology by introducing what? A mixed method. Now listen to what he says. And this the part that is relevant. He said this approach, the researcher believes, will generate some new findings through triangulating the qualitative findings with the quantitative findings. There will be triangulation. You understand? Some sort of synergy will happen. The concept of synergy says 1 + 1 is not 2, it's 3, because there's 1, there's another 1, which is 2. Then the 1 combined with another 1 generates another idea, which is 3. So there will be some sort of synergy, triangulation of what? Findings that will churn out new findings. Okay, and he says that further to this, most studies cited in the area of independent variable, he talked about also the variables. But he has clearly established the gap here, and what the study is addressing is using a quantitative mixed method approach to address the quantitative and the qualitative gaps. And is also, as a matter of agency, is using what? He's using a mixed method to address that. And he says he is also using the numerous literature, this time from the librarian perspective. So this is an empirical gap that he is filling. So I just want you to appreciate this, which is very, very important. And lastly, I want to show you this and then draw the questions out there if you have some few questions to ask. I need to show you this. So I'll send this slides to Prof to share it with you. So when we talk about research gaps, I've forgotten the guy who cited this, and with all due respect, I mean, that is his work. I think there's someone from Cape Coast University who sent this to me, but they didn't capture the reference. So it says in research, you see that there's weakness of what? The past findings as one of the gaps. There's literature gap. There's researchers' opportunity here, which see how it works out, the arrows, right? So here, expected knowledge, what is required or known. And then if you come to the research gap itself, here it said gap in population. If the person was use a population of only male students, then the gap is that there is gender. So there's also what? Female. So you might want to, improve it. If the population he used was so limited, you can address it by expanding what? The population, which is what? Also a gap. Then gap in what? Analysis. The person used only descriptive statistics. You know that descriptive statistics has its own what? Limitations. Go and read on the limitation of descriptive statistics and say that you want to do more inferential what? Statistics. You want to do correlation. You want to do some causal effect and all that. And it means that you have improved the methodology. Do you understand? These are all gaps. Then gaps in implication. Implication of the study. When we are done with the study, we look at the study from so many perspectives. Implication from what? Theory or literature. Is it adding new knowledge to existing literature? Has it altered the theory or has it extended the theory? Has it bring an improvement in what? Methodology? All this implication, and then gap in what? Method, which I've talked about. When you come here, gap in concept. If there's a concept that we introduced, like I was saying that I was introducing a mediating factor, it is not in literature. So if I make a justification and I want to introduce it, I make it more what? Robust. and then gap in perspective. These are all gaps. Gap in theory, gap in methodology. So the gaps are many. The gaps are many. And if you are very meticulous in reading these papers, you'll be able to identify. If you cannot identify any gap, what I showed you today is simple. Go to the limitation, repeat the topic, look at what they said they didn't do, and use that as your focus. In fact, in some papers, they even indicate that you can improve the methodology. They did descriptive. You can do what? Inferential, study, which means that they have given you the method to use. And then you take it up from there, then you are good to go. With that, you are not going to suffer because the literature that is available is in that paper. You can search for them and download them and then read them and also review them as this guy has reviewed. And then you review his paper in addition, find other current papers and then add. So if his references are 20, it means you have 20 papers already in addition to his 21. Find another 3 papers and add 24. You are done. Research is done. Okay. The only thing you need to do is to make sure that the data that you are going to collect exists so that you don't get any challenge. So I would like to hand over to Prof. I think if anybody has questions, he can ask. But thank you for your time. I've traveled beyond 1 hour because there are so many things to do. Honestly, this section literature review, at the PhD level when we are teaching, we have we do it about 3 or 4 meetings, and then there is even a seminar in addition. So I'd like to end here, and if you have any questions,